Kick-ass facts, more famous curses. Pew, 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 pew! Back in 1991, the body of an Iceman was discovered in the Alps. It was estimated that the body dates back to over 5,000 years. But after his discovery, 7 of the people who found him died over the course of 13 years, which would have been acceptable had they died of natural causes. None of them were. For instance, one person died in a car accident, another was killed in an avalanche, another died from accidentally falling off a cliff, and another from a blood disorder. The musical Spider-Man. Turn Off the Dark. Back in 2010, during rehearsals, the first mishap took place when an actor suffered broken feet and a concussion after a failed catapult stunt. Later, the stunt double broke both his wrists. On the night of the first preview performance, one of the main actresses sustained a concussion when she was hit in the head by a rope. She left the show shortly thereafter. Her replacement was sidelined for 2 weeks after sustaining neck injuries during an onstage battle scene. Then, a cord snapped during an aerial stunt, causing Christopher Tierney to fall 3 stories and crash into the orchestra pit. His injuries were severe. The actor fractured his skull, scapula, and elbow, in addition to breaking 4 of his ribs and 3 vertebrae. In 2013, a dancer's leg was mangled after getting caught in some machinery. The show closed in 2014, citing weak ticket sales and difficulty getting injury insurance. You don't say. The Crying Boy painting. The painting of a young boy was set on the walls of multiple homes throughout Europe. However, folks in many of the homes ended up being victims of fires and explosions. Even though the homes would be burned to the ground, the Crying Boy painting was always found to be completely intact in the aftermath. The painter claimed that he had made the painting of a wandering orphan whose parents had died in a house fire. Even a priest warned the painter that each home the boy was let into was destroyed due to a fire at one time or another. The painter didn't believe him, took the boy into his studio to paint him. The studio caught fire and burned down as well, causing the painter to banish the boy from his presence. I was selling a purse at a garage sale once. The person who bought the purse asked me if the previous owner of the purse had died, and at the time I thought she was silly, but now I get it. The Curse of the Dead Man's Chair. Ooh. This one dates to the 18th century. It started in North Yorkshire, 1702. The town drunk, a man named Thomas Busby, managed to snare the beautiful Elizabeth Aughty as his bride. Her father did not care for this union. He thought his daughter could do better. One day, Busby came home from work and found his father-in-law sitting in his favorite chair. He announced he was there to take his father home. Busby did not care for that, so he bludgeoned his father-in-law to death with a hammer and hid his body. As he was being led to his execution, he reportedly shouted that anyone who sat on his favorite chair would die. The inn where Busby lived with his wife was renamed the Busby Stoop Inn, and the chair has supposedly claimed an untold number of lives over the past 300 years. In 1968, Tony Earnshaw took over the inn. Not a superstitious man, he initially dismissed the Busby curse as nonsense and all the deaths as coincidences. However, people started to die on his watch. First, Earnshaw overheard 2 RAF airmen daring each other to sit on the chair. Both did. Both died in a car crash later that day. Then there was a group of builders who came into the pub at lunchtime and dared a young laborer to sit on the chair. That same day, he fell off a roof, cracked his skull on the concrete below. That was the last straw for Earnshaw. He begged the Thirsk Museum to take the chair off his hands, but only if they agreed never to let anybody sit on it. For nearly 30 years, despite many requests, no one has been allowed to tempt the curse.